Welcome to Reinventions in Between, your go-to podcast for real stories of reinvention that happen between life stages, career changes, and living abroad. I'm Sara Kojura, life coach, intercultural trainer, and reinventions facilitator, helping people on their quest to what's next. I have reinvented myself a few times, and in the past 16 years, I have collected fascinating stories of change. In each episode, my guests will talk about why and how they took the leap and seized the opportunity to change their life. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Today I'm really excited about this episode. And you know why? This episode, I'm sitting today with myself. Yes. It's kind of a celebratory episode. It's the last episode of the year and the last episode of season 1. I'm so proud of this milestone, which is an accomplishment. But it's also the first stretch of a long journey. See, by embarking on this uncomfortable journey, I got fun, I got learning, I got growth, and lots of creativity. Yes, by doing this work, I learned how to invite guests to my podcast, how to interview them, how to facilitate a conversation behind microphones. I also had to learn how to record and edit audio, then add the music and how to publish a podcast. So for this, I need to say I invested in a great course. If you also are thinking to start a podcast, I can't recommend enough my mentor, Regina Larco, and her #Impact podcast. Check her out on the link in the show notes. Attention, please. Reinvention killing tip. When you change career or start something new, you always grow your skills. I had a lot of fun because I loved experimenting with the jingles, making the intro. And I got frustrated also when I messed it up with some audio. It all was part of the learning curve. Plus, I'm so proud that I'm using original music my kids and hubby created during lockdown. Yes, lots of creativity. So creative that I'm also starting a second podcast in Italian, my mother tongue, in Italiano. Lots of interesting guests. I'm so happy. I already have recorded 4 episodes. I'm just finalizing the title. How should I call it? Help me in sending, those of you who speak Italian, send me your suggestion. In this season finale, I'd like to explain a bit in detail what this project is about and why I started Reinventions in Between, this very podcast. So, I want to talk about ideal life versus real life. Linear versus squiggle. See, we tend to think or aspire to an ideal life, but often reality is quite different. The ability to work towards our ideal life, embracing the bumps of reality, makes the journey worthy. A linear life is just ideal, and a squiggy one is more close to reality. There's this tendency of seeing an ideal life as we grow up, we complete our studies, we find the perfect job, we get married, start a family, we grow old, and we fantasize on retirement places. But in reality, life can and often includes twists and plan changes. I'll talk about that in a minute, in detail. I also want to talk about how it started. So I became fascinated by stories of reinvention when I was abroad, and I met people that changed their life and career along their path. Me and my husband love foreign languages and travel in the world. We speak 5, including a bit of Thai, a tonal language very difficult for me to pronounce. Sawadika, sabai di mai ka. So one of the ways to experience both was embarking in a life abroad and an international career. Not always easy to allow 2 careers to progress in every country. So when we moved to Thailand, I explored ways to pursue my career locally. It took a long time before I could find a job, and it wasn't in my previous industry. So many countries also have spouses visa that restrict them to work. So it's not always easy peasy. But that exploration and experimenting allow me to learn new things, acquire new competencies, and become more empathetic with different ways of doing things. But more importantly, it also allowed me to find out what was important to me and what I was longing to do, which could have an impact on others. So 8 years ago, during my second pregnancy, a very creative phase of life, at so many levels. Check episode 3 and 4 if you haven't listened already. They are both reinvention that happened after maternity. Very powerful and inspiring. So I realized that I could help other women like me in the same situation, juggling life, career, and family abroad with little or no help and tons of questions on how to do it right. It was then that I decided to retrain as a life coach and intercultural trainer so that I could acquire competencies to help others having a balanced and fulfilling life. That was Reinvention number 3. After having worked as a content editor for a publishing house and started an e-commerce for eco-friendly baby items when I firstly became a mom. So why I'm doing this podcast? While I was in Luxembourg, country number 3, I met a special friend, which became a partner in crime. She asked me to launch together a series of reinvention workshops. And so we did, just a couple of months before we moved down under in Melbourne, Australia. If you think you can do something because you move country often, you might want to rethink. Some projects are pilots that you can replicate somewhere else, adapting them to the local context. This is the reinvention killing tip number 2. Always take advantage of the situation that arise, even if you can't see what fruit they can bear yet. You are collecting experiences, references, contacts. They all turn into assets. We work on these in my Reinvention webinars. If you want to know more, check the show notes or book a chat on my website, between-cultures.com. The main reason I created this podcast is because every story is a gift. And the person who tells it is sharing facts, processes, and learnings that are extremely useful for every listener. You'll find inspiration even if you're not thinking of reinventing just yet. Every story is unique, and every speaker deserves to be under the spot for their achievements as a celebration. So these stories that I tell with the help of my incredible guests are extremely valuable and filled with professional tips. I long to create a community of reinventors that inspire, support, and connect each other with a positive connotation on change. Originally, the Reinvention in between was a book project. Yeah, a book. But then a pandemic hit, and we were all busy with homeschooling and trying to set boundaries inside our homes, sharing the Wi-Fi, Then one day I discovered podcasts, and I told myself, I love chatting with people, and this topic will get more interaction if told in episodes. So I researched how to start a podcast, and here I am. There's something magic when people exchange ideas, experiences, and processes. Exchanging with a person is so special. So I wanted to invite them on my show. And to my surprise, many people said yes. And so I'm so excited. And now I'm working on season number 2. The reasons and type of reinvention is something that I want to talk about. So most people think that quitting a job is crazy or easy only for some professionals. Depending on the culture you grew up with, you might see eyebrows lifted with negative consideration if you tell your family or friends you are about to quit your job. We start our reinvention workshop with assessing with which lenses we look at change, in general and in our own context. This is easy to understand our mindset and what we think about reinvention. We might have hidden feelings about that. But change is a constant, also in nature. What I want to bring to you all following this podcast is a new way of considering reinventing yourself. So we reinvent for many reasons, and you will see in every episode, we cover different aspects and different types of reinventions. So you might think redundancy, a move abroad, maternity, so life stages, an illness or a family member to care for, a passion that is taking more space and morphing into a small business, midlife crisis, value crisis. We might quit just because we want to switch from a profit company to a not-for-profit one that aligns more with what we believe in. An opportunity of a new role in a department that we never thought we'd work for. Maybe we reinvent in consequence of acquisition of new skills, and new skills can lead us somewhere else. You will also decide to quit corporate to become an entrepreneur or a mompreneur. Maybe you take a gap year or a long service leave that turns into a project with like-minded people. Maybe you are a multi-potentialite and find fulfillment in learning new things. Or maybe a pandemic hit. You have to rethink the way of doing things and work. See, there are many reasons why in many types of reinventions. And everyone who embarks in this process has a lot of courage. And I'm so happy to collect their stories. I want to keep telling amazing stories and offering you inspiration, tools to start your own change. So now let me hear from you. What is your idea? Send me a comment. Meanwhile, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for listening. Now I want to hear from you. What's your number one takeaway from my conversation with my guest? We would love to hear your comments. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If you're curious about reinvention, go download my free guide, Your First Steps. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the opportunity to spark curiosity and get inspired on how you can navigate change in your own life.